The night air felt cool against Maya's face as she pushed through the heavy doors of Memorial Hospital. Her 12-hour shift had stretched into 14, and her body ached from the constant movement. The clock on her phone showed 11:43 p.m. Another late night, another walk through the nearly empty parking garage. Maya adjusted the small backpack on her shoulder and brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. 5 years at Memorial, and she still hadn't gotten used to the eerie quiet of the garage at night. The day shift nurses never understood why she disliked these late walks. They hadn't spent 3 years in war zones where silence usually meant danger. Just one more day this week, she mumbled to herself, fishing her keys from the pocket of her dark blue scrubs. The familiar weight of the keychain, a small metal medic symbol her unit had given her before she left the service, provided a strange comfort. The garage lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows between the parked cars. Maya walked with purpose, her comfortable nursing shoes barely making a sound on the concrete floor. Row D, spot 27. She always parked in the same place, a habit she picked up in the military. Routine meant control, and control meant safety. As she turned the corner toward her aging Honda, Maya felt a shift in the air. It wasn't something she could explain to others, just an instinct developed from years in places where noticing small changes could save lives. She slowed her pace, eyes scanning the dimly lit space around her. Nothing seemed out of place, yet something felt wrong. The security camera in the corner had its red light on, but Maya knew from conversations with the guard that it had been broken for months. Budget cuts meant fixing it was on the list, but never a priority. Her car sat alone in its spot, no vehicles on either side. Maya tightened her grip on her keys, sliding the longest one between her fingers, a small defensive measure her father had taught her years ago. 20 more steps and she'd be at her car. The sound came from behind a concrete pillar to her right. A shoe scuffing against the floor. Maya stopped. In the military, they had trained her to trust her instincts. Right now, every nerve in her body screamed danger. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice echoing slightly in the empty garage. No answer came, but she noticed movement in her peripheral vision, shadows shifting where no shadows should be. Maya took a deep breath, weighing her options. Run for the exit. Too far. Scream for help. Unlikely anyone would hear. The hospital security guard was probably doing his rounds on the other side of the building. Before she could decide, they emerged, 5 men stepping out from behind pillars and parked cars, forming a loose circle around her. They wore dark clothes, faces partially hidden behind bandanas pulled up over their noses. In the poor lighting, their eyes looked flat and emotionless. The tallest one stepped forward, something metallic glinting in his hand. The switchblade clicked open, the sound unnervingly loud in the quiet garage. "Look what we got here," he said, voice muffled behind his face covering. "A nurse all alone after dark." Maya stood perfectly still, her training kicking in automatically. She assessed each man quickly. Their stances, their builds, which one seemed nervous and which seemed confident. Her heart rate increased, but her breathing remained steady. "I don't want trouble," she said calmly, though she knew trouble had already found her. A shorter man to her left laughed. "Should have thought about that before coming here alone." "Purse, phone, car keys," the leader demanded, gesturing with the knife. "Now." What these men saw was a tired nurse at the end of a shift, an easy target. What they didn't see was the woman who had treated bullet wounds while under active fire, who had carried wounded soldiers twice the size across desert terrain, who had learned to fight as well as heal. Maya's expression remained neutral, but her mind raced through scenarios and options. These weren't hardened soldiers or fighters. They were opportunistic predators expecting an easy victim. "You don't want to do this," she said, her voice carrying a quiet authority that seemed to momentarily confuse them. The leader stepped closer, knife extended. "I don't think you understand the situation here, lady." Maya took a subtle stance, feet positioned just right, center of gravity low. "No," she replied, meeting his eyes steadily. "I don't think you do." The 5 men tightened their circle around Maya, their shoes scraping against the concrete floor of the parking garage. The sound bounced off the walls, making it seem like there were more of them than just 5. Maya counted them again silently. 1 with a knife, 4 without visible weapons, though she couldn't be sure what they might be hiding. "We don't have all night," the leader said, waving his switchblade. The overhead lights caught its edge, sending a small flash across Maya's face. Purse, phone, keys, now. Maya kept her breathing steady. She'd faced worse odds in places far more dangerous than a hospital parking garage. During her second tour, she treated 3 wounded soldiers while pinned down by enemy fire with nothing but a basic med kit and her training. This situation was different, but the feeling was familiar. The rush of adrenaline, the heightened awareness, the careful calculation. "Listen," she said, her voice surprisingly level. "I've got about $40 cash, an old phone, and car keys to a Honda with 200,000 miles on it. Is that really worth what's about to happen here?" The men exchanged glances. A shorter one to her right snickered. "Look at her trying to be brave," he said, nudging the man beside him. "What are you going to do, nurse? Take our temperature?" They laughed, but Maya noticed the uncertainty in the eyes of the youngest-looking member. He couldn't have been more than 20, and he kept glancing toward the garage exit. A reluctant participant, maybe, or just nervous about getting caught. The leader stepped closer, close enough that Maya could smell cigarettes on his breath. "Let me make this real simple for you. Give us your stuff, or we take it. And trust me, you don't want option 2. Maya shifted her weight slightly, adjusting her stance. Her fingers were still wrapped around her keys, the longest one protruding between her knuckles. An improvised weapon, but not her only option. "I spent 3 years as a combat medic in Afghanistan," she said quietly. "Do you know what that means?" The leader hesitated just for a second. It was a brief flicker of doubt, but Maya saw it. "It means I've treated every kind of wound you can imagine. Gunshots, knife wounds, blast injuries." She paused, letting the words sink in. "It also means I know exactly where to hurt someone and where to help them." One of the men laughed nervously. "She's bluffing, man. She's just trying to scare us." Maya remained perfectly still. Second drawer of the crashed cart in the ER has a drug that can stop your heart in under a minute. Fourth drawer has the one that can restart it. I know both because I've used both. It wasn't exactly a threat, just a fact, stated calmly. The leader's eyes narrowed behind his bandana. He wasn't used to victims talking back, especially not with such unnerving calm. He lunged forward suddenly, the knife aimed at Maya's midsection, not to stab, but to frighten. It was a mistake. Maya's body reacted with muscle memory honed through years of combat training. She pivoted slightly, her left hand deflecting his wrist while her right palm shot upward, striking precisely under his chin. The impact made his teeth clack together, and he stumbled backward into one of his companions. The knife clattered to the ground between them. The garage fell silent for a beat. The men stared at her, then at their leader who was rubbing his jaw in shock. Then back at Maya. She hadn't moved from her spot, hadn't even looked rushed. She stood there, still appearing calm despite the racing of her heart. "What the?" one of them started. "Like I said," Maya cut him off, "combat medic. That means I can help people, but it also means I can defend myself." The leader recovered his composure and signaled to the others. "Rush her, all at once. She can't take all of us." They moved forward together, closing the circle. Maya felt time slow down, just like it used to in the field when things went from bad to worse in an instant. She'd never wanted to use these skills at home. She'd become a nurse to heal, to help. But some lessons stayed with you forever, especially those learned in war. "Last chance to walk away," she warned them, her voice carrying a hint of genuine regret for what was about to happen. The first man reached for her arm. Maya took a deep breath. And then she moved. The first attacker lunged at Maya, arms outstretched to grab her. His movements were sloppy, fueled more by confidence in numbers than any real skill. To Maya, he might as well have been moving in slow motion. She sidestepped smoothly, pivoting on her right foot while simultaneously driving her elbow into the exact spot where his ribs met his sternum. The precise strike knocked the wind from his lungs. He doubled over, gasping for air, his face twisted in shock more than pain. "What the?" one of the others started to say. Maya didn't give them time to regroup. She moved with fluid efficiency, dropping her shoulder and driving forward into the space created by the first man's fall. Breaking the circle was tactical priority number one. Never stay surrounded. She burst through the gap between two of the men, spinning to face all five from a new position that put her back near a concrete column. Now they couldn't come at her from behind. She's just a nurse, the leader hissed, holding his jaw where she'd struck him earlier. There was fear in his voice now, masked poorly by anger. Get her. The tallest one, wearing a dark hoodie, rushed at Maya with more caution than the first. He feinted left, then swung a heavy right hook toward her face. Maya ducked under his swing, her body responding with muscle memory that needed no conscious thought. His momentum carried him forward as she swept her leg in a low arc, catching his ankle and sending him sprawling onto the hard concrete. The sound of his fall echoed through the parking garage. He groaned, rolling onto his side. 2 down, Maya said quietly, returning to her ready stance. Who's next? The remaining 3 hesitated, looking at each other. This wasn't how these situations were supposed to go. They were used to victims who froze in fear or handed over their belongings with shaking hands. Not this woman who moved like water and struck like stone. The youngest member of the group backed away slightly. Man, this isn't worth it, he muttered. Let's just go. Shut up, the leader snapped. Nobody's going anywhere. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something that made Maya's heart beat faster, a small handgun. The sight of the weapon changed the atmosphere instantly. Maya had seen too many gunshot wounds to take any firearm lightly. But she'd also learned that people who brandished guns often didn't really want to use them, especially in a public place like a hospital parking garage where a gunshot would bring immediate attention. You really want to add armed assault to your charges? Maya asked, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. That's a whole different level of trouble. The leader's hand trembled slightly as he pointed the gun at her. Give us your stuff and we walk away. That's the deal. Maya studied his face. His eyes darted nervously. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool night air. He wasn't a killer, just a scared man trying to look tough in front of his friends. I've treated gunshot wounds in dusty tents with nothing but basic supplies, Maya said, keeping her voice calm and even. I've held pressure on arteries while bullets flew overhead. I've watched good people bleed out because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. She took a careful breath. Is that what you want to be responsible for tonight? The young one looked increasingly uncomfortable. Man, let's just go. This is crazy. The leader's aim wavered slightly. She's just trying to. Before he could finish, Maya made her move. She lunged forward, not at the leader, but at the man beside him. The unexpected direction of her attack caught them off guard. She delivered a sharp strike to his knee, not enough to cause permanent damage, but enough to make him howl in pain and drop to the ground. In the same fluid motion, she pivoted toward the leader, her hand shooting out to grab his wrist, the one holding the gun. She applied pressure to exactly the right nerve cluster, a technique she'd learned from a Special Forces medic during her second tour. The gun clattered to the floor as the leader cried out, his hand suddenly numb and useless. Maya kicked the weapon away, sending it sliding under a nearby car. I'm a combat medic with 3 tours in Afghanistan, she said, still holding the leader's wrist at an angle that kept him immobilized. I know exactly how the human body works, how to heal it, and how to hurt it. The remaining unhurt man and the young one stared at her with wide eyes. This is your chance to leave, Maya told them. Take your friends and go. Or stay and find out what else I learned overseas. Time seemed to freeze in the dimly lit parking garage. 3 men were down, one gasping for breath, one nursing a twisted knee, and the leader still locked in Maya's grip, his face contorted in pain. The 2 remaining gang members exchanged uncertain glances, clearly weighing their options. This is crazy, the younger one said, backing away slightly. Nobody said anything about fighting some kind of. I don't know what she is. The other man hesitated, looking from his injured friends to Maya and back again. His hand moved toward his waistband in a motion Maya recognized all too well. Don't, she warned, her voice sharp. Your friend already made that mistake. Despite her warning, his hand continued its path downward. Maya had seconds to make a decision. She couldn't maintain her hold on the leader and intercept the new threat at the same time. In one fluid motion, she twisted the leader's arm behind his back, using his body as a shield while propelling him forward toward his friend. The unexpected human projectile caught the man off guard, sending both of them stumbling backward into the side of a parked car. Maya closed the distance in 3 quick strides. Her hand found the man's wrist before he could fully draw his weapon. She applied pressure to a specific point, a technique taught by her combat instructor years ago. His fingers went numb, and a small pocket knife fell from his hand. "That's twice now," Maya said, her breathing still remarkably steady. "You guys really don't listen well." The leader tried to regain his footing, rage replacing shock on his face. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded, cradling his injured arm. "I told you. Combat medic, 3 tours. You're lucky. I was a pretty good one." Maya kept her eyes on all of them, constantly assessing, the way she'd been trained. "In Afghanistan, I didn't just treat our soldiers. Sometimes we helped locals who stepped on mines or got caught in crossfire. Kids, elders, didn't matter. We helped whoever needed it." She took a step back, creating distance while maintaining her defensive stance. "That job teaches you 2 things: how to save lives under pressure and how to stay alive when people are trying to kill you." The youngest gang member had retreated to the edge of the scene, clearly wanting no further part in this failed robbery. The others were still processing how quickly their simple plan had fallen apart. "I've seen what real violence looks like," Maya continued, her voice softening slightly. This is just stupid. You're not soldiers. You're not hardened criminals. You're just guys who thought they found an easy target." The leader spat on the ground. "You think you know us? You don't know anything about our lives." "I know you've got a slight tremor in your left hand," Maya observed. "Could be anxiety, could be early signs of nerve damage. Either way, you should get it checked out." Her eyes moved to the man nursing his knee. "And your friend there, the way he's favoring that knee suggests an old injury. Football, maybe?" They stared at her, confusion replacing anger. "That's what happens when you spend years learning to assess injuries in seconds," Maya explained. "You notice things, like how your young friend over there hasn't actually participated in the attack, or how none of you have gang tattoos despite trying to act like a hardened crew." The sound of distant footsteps echoed through the garage, security making rounds, or maybe another hospital employee heading home. The men tensed, looking toward the sound. Maya saw an opportunity. Security makes rounds every 20 minutes. They'll be here any second, so you have a choice to make. The leader glanced at his injured friends, then at the gun still lying under a nearby car, well out of reach. His shoulders slumped slightly. "What's it gonna be?" Maya asked, still ready for anything. "Because I can tell you how this ends if you choose to keep going. Best case, you're looking at assault charges. Worst case," she nodded toward where the gun lay hidden in shadow, "armed assault against a hospital employee, that's serious time." The youngest member finally spoke up. "Let's just go, man. This isn't worth it." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then the leader nodded, still glaring at Maya. "Help them up," he ordered, gesturing to his injured friends. "We're out." The 2 uninjured men moved cautiously toward their companions, keeping wary eyes on Maya. She stepped back, giving them space but remaining ready if they tried anything else. "This isn't over," the leader muttered as they helped the injured man with the knee problem to his feet. Maya's expression remained calm. "For your sake, I hope it is." The gang members had begun their slow retreat, helping their injured friends limp away, when the last man, the one who had been hanging back throughout most of the confrontation, made a sudden, desperate move. His hand plunged into his jacket pocket and emerged with the unmistakable outline of a handgun. "Nobody moves," he shouted, his voice cracking with panic. His hand trembled visibly as he pointed the weapon at Maya. "This ends now." Maya froze, not out of fear but out of calculation. The situation had escalated again, and this time the threat was in the hands of someone clearly terrified. In her experience, scared people with guns were far more dangerous than angry ones. "Easy," she said softly, raising her hand slightly. "Let's think about this." The leader turned to the armed man, his eyes widening. "What are you doing? Put that away." "Shut up," the armed man snapped, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool night air. "She's seen our faces. We can't just walk away now." Maya kept her voice calm and even. That's not a road you want to go down. Right now, you're looking at assault charges if I report this. Use that gun and your whole life changes." The man's eyes darted nervously between Maya and his companions. The leader was shaking his head, trying to de-escalate the situation his friend had suddenly made much worse. "Think about this," Maya continued, maintaining eye contact with the armed man. "Hospital security is on the way. Gunshots echo in this garage, everyone will hear. There are cameras at every exit. You'll never make it out without being identified." It wasn't entirely true about the cameras, but he didn't need to know that. The young gang member who had stayed out of most of the fight spoke up, his voice pleading. "Come on, man. This was supposed to be a simple grab. Nobody was supposed to get hurt." "She hurt us," the armed man shouted, gesturing toward his injured friends with his free hand while keeping the gun aimed at Maya. "What about that?" "Self-defense," Maya said simply. "You came at me, 5 against 1. I defended myself. But this," she nodded toward the gun. "This is different. This is premeditated. This is a life sentence waiting to happen." The footsteps in the distance grew louder. Security was definitely approaching now. They had maybe 30 seconds before someone rounded the corner. The leader grabbed the armed man's shoulder. "We need to go. Now." For a heart-stopping moment, the armed man's finger tightened on the trigger. Maya saw it, the slight tension, the whitening knuckle. She'd seen it before, in much dustier, more dangerous places than this parking garage. "I treated a 19-year-old who got shot over something stupid," Maya said quietly, the words tumbling out as she tried to reach whatever humanity remained in the man. "He was from this neighborhood. Got caught up with the wrong people. One bullet shattered his spine. He'll never walk again." The armed man's eyes flickered with something, doubt, perhaps, or recognition. "I sat with him while he cried, realizing his whole life had changed because someone like you made a bad decision in a moment of panic," Maya continued. "Don't be that guy. Don't ruin your life and someone else's because you're scared right now." The security guard's voice echoed from around the corner. "Hello, is someone there?" Time seemed to stretch as they all stood frozen in this terrible moment of decision. Maya watched the armed man's eyes, saw the internal struggle playing out. His hand trembled more violently now. Then slowly he lowered the gun. "We need to go," he muttered, tucking the weapon back into his jacket. The leader nodded frantically, relief washing over his face. "Help me with these guys," he ordered, gesturing to their injured companions. As they scrambled to retreat, the leader locked eyes with Maya one last time. There was something new there, not just anger or fear, but a reluctant respect. "This isn't over," he said, but the words lacked conviction now. Maya didn't respond. She knew empty threats when she heard them. The footsteps rounded the corner just as the last of the gang members disappeared into the stairwell at the far end of the garage. The security guard, an older man with a flashlight and a concerned expression, squinted into the dimly lit space. "Everything okay over here, ma'am?" he called out, walking toward Maya. She took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline that had kept her sharp begin to ebb away, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion. "Yes," she answered, her voice steadier than she felt. "Everything's fine now." The security guard looked around suspiciously. "Thought I heard voices. You sure you're all right?" Maya nodded, reaching for her car keys with a hand that only slightly trembled. "Just heading home after a long shift. Nothing I couldn't handle." Maya sat in her car for a long moment, hands gripping the steering wheel, before she even started the engine. The security guard had walked her to her vehicle, chatting about the weather and hospital gossip as if the night were completely ordinary. She'd nodded and smiled, playing the role of the tired nurse heading home after a long shift. No need to complicate things with police reports and questions that would stretch into the early morning hours. As she finally turned the key, the car rumbling to life beneath her, Maya felt the delayed trembling begin in her fingertips. It always happened like this, rock steady during the crisis, shaky in the aftermath. Back in Afghanistan, her unit had nicknamed her Stone Cold for her ability to work without flinching even under the most chaotic conditions. But afterward, alone in her tent, she'd shake like a leaf. Some things never changed. The drive home passed in a blur. Maya's apartment was only 15 minutes from the hospital, a small one-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood she'd chosen specifically because it felt nothing like a war zone. As she climbed the stairs to the third floor, each step felt heavier than the last. The adrenaline crash was hitting hard now. Inside, she dropped her keys on the small table by the door and headed straight for the bathroom without turning on any lights. She didn't need to see her face right now, didn't want to see whatever expression might be there. Instead, she turned the shower as hot as it would go and stood under the stream until her skin turned pink and the bathroom filled with steam. Only then did she allow herself to really think about what had happened. 5 men, 2 guns, 1 knife. It could have gone so differently. Maya wrapped herself in a faded blue bathrobe and moved to the kitchen. She wasn't hungry, but she knew from experience that her body needed fuel after that kind of stress. She made a simple sandwich and ate it standing at the counter, washing it down with tap water. Her phone chirped with a text message. It was from Danny, a fellow nurse from the ER. "You get home okay? Parking garage creeps me out at night." Maya stayed at the message for a long moment. How to respond? "Almost got attacked by 5 guys, but don't worry, I handled it." She typed back, "All good. Home safe." Simple. True enough. No need to worry her friend. As she moved to her small living room, Maya caught sight of the photo frame on her bookshelf, her old unit gathered around a makeshift Christmas tree at the field hospital. Smiling faces covered in dust, arms thrown around each other's shoulders. Family formed in the most unlikely place. Most of them didn't know what she did now. How she traded battlefield medicine for fluorescent lights in hospital corridors. How she still wore her dog tags beneath her scrub some days when the transition between those worlds felt particularly sharp. Maya sank onto her couch, suddenly too tired to make it to the bedroom. She should call someone, maybe. Talk about what happened. That's what the transition counselor had always advised when the lines between there and here blurred. But who would understand? Her colleagues at the hospital saw her as the calm, competent nurse who never got rattled even during the worst traumas. They didn't know about the other parts of her training, the parts that had nothing to do with saving lives and everything to do with protecting them. Her military friends were scattered across the country now, each fighting their own battles of reintegration. Calling at this hour would only worry them. Maya leaned her head back against the cushions and closed her eyes. The memory of the leaver's face flashed behind her eyelids, the shock when he realized she wasn't an easy target, the fear when she turned his own strength against him, the reluctant respect at the end. "This isn't over," he'd said. But it was. It had to be. She'd given them an out, and they'd taken it. Street wisdom dictated they'd find easier targets next time. That's how predators worked. They sought vulnerability, not challenge. Still, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered caution. She'd seen their faces. They'd seen hers. In the tight community surrounding the hospital, paths had a way of crossing again. Maya opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling. She'd check with hospital security tomorrow, suggest they fix those broken cameras in the garage. Maybe talk to administration about better lighting, a buddy system for night shift workers. For now, though, sleep beckoned. The heavy, dreamless kind that came after the body and mind had been pushed to their limits. Tomorrow, she murmured to herself. Deal with it all tomorrow. She didn't make it to the bedroom, falling asleep on the couch, still wrapped in her bathrobe, one hand resting near her phone as if expecting a call that never came. Maya sat in her car for a long moment, hands gripping the steering wheel, before she even started the engine. The security guard had walked her to her vehicle, chatting about the weather and hospital gossip as if the night were completely ordinary. She'd nodded and smiled, playing the role of the tired nurse heading home after a long shift. No need to complicate things with police reports and questions that would stretch into the early morning hours. As she finally turned the key, the car rumbling to life beneath her, Maya felt the delayed trembling begin in her fingertips. It always happened like this, rock steady during the crisis, shaky in the aftermath. Back in Afghanistan, her unit had nicknamed her Stone Cold for her ability to work without flinching even under the most chaotic conditions. But afterward, alone in her tent, she'd shake like a leaf. Some things never changed. The drive home passed in a blur. Maya's apartment was only 15 minutes from the hospital, a small one-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood she'd chosen specifically because it felt nothing like a war zone. As she climbed the stairs to the third floor, each step felt heavier than the last. The adrenaline crush was hitting hard now. Inside, she dropped her keys on the small table by the door and headed straight for the bathroom without turning on any lights. She didn't need to see her face right now, didn't want to see whatever expression might be there. Instead, she turned the shower as hot as it would go and stood under the stream until her skin turned pink and the bathroom filled with steam. Only then did she allow herself to really think about what had happened. 5 men. 2 guns. 1 knife. It could have gone so differently. Maya wrapped herself in a faded blue bathrobe and moved to the kitchen. She wasn't hungry, but she knew from experience that her body needed fuel after that kind of stress. She made a simple sandwich and ate it standing at the counter, washing it down with tap water. Her phone chirped with a text message. It was from Dani, a fellow nurse from the ER. "You get home okay? Parking garage creeps me out at night." Maya stared at the message for a long moment. How to respond? "Almost got attacked by 5 guys, but don't worry, I handled it." She typed back. "All good. Home safe." Simple. True enough. No need to worry her friend. As she moved to her small living room, Maya caught sight of the photo frame on her bookshelf. Her old unit gathered around a makeshift Christmas tree at the field hospital. Smiling faces covered in dust, arms thrown around each other's shoulders. Family formed in the most unlikely place. Most of them didn't know what she did now. How she'd traded battlefield medicine for fluorescent lights and hospital corridors. How she still wore her dog tags beneath her scrub some days when the transition between those worlds felt particularly sharp. Maya sank onto her couch, suddenly too tired to make it to the bedroom. She should call someone, maybe. Talk about what happened. That's what the transition counselor had always advised when the lines between there and here blurred. But who would understand? Her colleagues at the hospital saw her as the calm, competent nurse who never got rattled even during the worst traumas. They didn't know about the other parts of her training, the parts that had nothing to do with saving lives and everything to do with protecting them. Her military friends were scattered across the country now, each fighting their own battles of reintegration. Calling at this hour would only worry them. Maya leaned her head back against the cushions and closed her eyes. The memory of the leaver's face flashed behind her eyelids, the shock when he realized she wasn't an easy target, the fear when she turned his own strength against him, the reluctant respect at the end. "This isn't over," he'd said. But it was. It had to be. She'd given them an out, and they'd taken it. Street wisdom dictated they'd find easier targets next time. That's how predators worked. They sought vulnerability, not challenge. Still, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered caution. She'd seen their faces. They'd seen hers. In the tight community surrounding the hospital, paths had a way of crossing again. Maya opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling. She'd check with hospital security tomorrow, suggest they fix those broken cameras in the garage. Maybe talk to administration about better lighting, a buddy system for night shift workers. For now, though, sleep beckoned. The heavy, dreamless kind that came after the body and mind had been pushed to their limits. Tomorrow, she murmured to herself. Deal with it all tomorrow. She didn't make it to the bedroom, falling asleep on the couch still wrapped in her bathrobe, one hand resting near her phone as if expecting a call that never came.